So this video is all about tips for how to stay productive in isolation. So if you're looking for some productivity tips, then this video is for you. Hello, my name is Bria. I like to make videos all about travel vlogs, travel how-to videos, some financial videos. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please do hit that subscribe button. And if you're not new, welcome back. So at the moment, I think there's a lot of pressure on a lot of people to be very productive during isolation and being in quarantine. I've seen a lot of pressure on social media for people to come out of quarantine having learned to play the piano, learned how to speak Cantonese, started 2 six-figure businesses. There is so much pressure out there to actually make the most of every single minute, every single second, and live up to this idea of productivity that society has. I think at the moment a lot of people are very anxious and it's very difficult not to compare yourself to other people through social media. However, being productive isn't just society's version of being productive, it's not other people's version of being productive. Everyone has their own definition of what being productive is. That's just something to remember. Try not to compare yourself to other people. If learning a new language is not for you, if starting a business is not for you, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you should be doing. So just something to help with the pressure of what's on social media at the moment. And if you don't come out of quarantine with new skills, fine. These definitions of productivity are not universal, they're not for everyone. Anyway, rant over. So now firstly, I am definitely the world's biggest procrastinator. I was always that person at uni who would leave every assignment until the last minute, and then I would have to do all-nighters in the library, and it was the worst feeling ever. But that's just the type of person I was, unfortunately. So I'm definitely not always the most productive person. I have bouts of being productive, and I have days where I'm really productive, and then I have other days where I just want to binge and watch Netflix all day. I found these tips have been very helpful, especially now at the moment as I'm working from home every day. I'm fortunate to still have a job and I still am working, and it's very difficult to keep a structure when you are working from home. So these are just some things that I found to be very useful, and I hope that they'll also help a lot of other people. So something that I found to be invaluable and something that really helps me achieve what I want to achieve each day is prioritizing tasks that I really want to do that day. So the really important tasks, I'll usually pick about 3 of these, prioritize those and mark them on my to-do list. So these are the things that must get done before I log off at the end of each day. I always try to do these tasks first thing in the morning, and I do that because I know if I was to leave them until the afternoon, or if I was to complete the less important, lower priority tasks, which might be easier to do, but if I was to leave them and complete those first, then I just know that these other tasks would not get done, because they're usually the most difficult tasks and most important tasks. And if you're like me, if you're a procrastinator, you will just do the easier tasks first and then leave the more important tasks until later in the day, because you don't want to do them and you're trying to leave them until the last minute and just hope that they'll disappear. So yeah, mark these the day before on your to-do list, make them a priority, do them first thing when you wake up, get the most difficult, most important tasks out of the way first, and then focus on everything else, which is less priority in the afternoon. So for me, I like to have the frame of mind that my day starts the night before. So basically, I like to start planning my day the night before, make my to-do list the night before, and I do this for a couple of reasons. Number one is because if I am thinking about the tasks that I need to do the next day, the night before, this actually helps me to sleep if I'm getting them down on paper. Because think about it, if you don't note them down, your brain is using up energy to try and remember what these tasks are for the day after. Whereas if you just note them down, you can just say to your brain, okay, switch off, you don't need to think about these things, because you know that you've written? You know that you put them down on paper, and therefore you don't have to keep thinking about them and reminding yourself of them. And another reason I do this is because when I wake up on that day, I have my to-do list ready. I know exactly what I need to do and roughly when I want to achieve each point by. And that will really help add structure to your day immediately as soon as you wake up. It will give you that motivation to get out of bed, because if you are like me, if you haven't got a to-do list or any structure, anything planned for your day, I will just stay in bed. I will keep scrolling on Instagram and doing really unproductive things, and sometimes I can stay in bed for about an hour after my alarm has gone off. Because if I haven't got an incentive to wake up or to get out of bed, then yeah, I'll just spend a lot of time in there and feel guilty, and that will really set the mood for the rest of my day. Something that I found really useful is something called the Pomodoro technique. No, it's not a pasta sauce. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, what is that? So basically the Pomodoro technique is a really good study technique. And what you do is you have a task that has to be done. So you decide on what that task is. So this might be just working from home in general. So if it is, break your working from home down into specific chunks or tasks that need to be done. Set a timer on your phone for 25 minutes. Throw your phone to the other side of the room so that it cannot distract you. Work on the task until the timer ends. So you're working on the task for 25 minutes until that timer goes off. Then take a 5-minute break, do all the things you need to do, check social media, check your messages, go to the toilet, have your food. Then, after that 5 minutes, set your timer again for another 25 minutes. Do your task until that timer ends, so work straight until the timer goes off, and then again have your 5-minute break. And repeat, and repeat. So there is logic behind this technique. Basically, the logic is that humans can only focus for between 20 minutes to 25 minutes. Therefore, you're giving yourself this focus time. You've got the incentive to work up until that buzzer or timer goes off in 25 minutes, which means you've got an incentive to get your work done because you know that you're going to be rewarded with that 5 minutes where you can do all the things that you would probably usually do whilst you're working. So for example, checking social media. It's so good for helping you focus. If you haven't tried this before and if you haven't heard of it before, let me know how you get on. This is something that I found to be really useful, and yeah, I definitely recommend. So another tool that I like to use to add structure to the work that I'm doing, this is for bigger projects usually and chunkier pieces of work. So I like to use a tool called Trello. So if you haven't heard of Trello before, it's basically a project management tool. It's free to use, free to sign up, and basically you create a board and you can split your project into specific tasks that need to be done. And I like to split my work into columns of to do, doing, and then done. And basically you can just move each task through the different stages, and it helps you keep track of the work that you are going to do, what is currently being done, and then things that you have done. So it really just helps you keep an eye on the status of certain things. So this probably isn't as useful for smaller chunks of work, but it's very useful for those bigger, chunkier projects and more longer term pieces of work. Okay, so the last one is matcha green tea. So the reason I'm saying matcha green tea instead of coffee is because coffee is great. Obviously, it's a source of caffeine, which really helps you stay focused. So matcha green tea actually provides less caffeine than coffee. And because of this, it actually helps you to sustain your concentration and your focus instead of giving you that jittery feeling that coffee usually does, because it's a higher dose of caffeine all at the same time. Because of this, it will help you work and focus for longer instead of having that buzzing, jittery effect from the coffee working and then suddenly having that downfall because all the caffeine is leaving your system. Another great thing about matcha is that it's full of antioxidants, so it's super healthy and really good for you. It is a little bit pricey. I found mine on, I think on Amazon. I've had it for quite a while, and although I did spend about, I think it was £19 for the jar that I have, you only have to have a tiny amount in with hot water, so it does last a really long time. So thank you for watching. I hope that those tips were useful. If you have tried any of those, or if you are going to try any of those, please do comment below and just let me know what you think. Also, if you have some tips to share, let us know in the comments section below. I'd be really interested to see other people's tips for productivity, especially in this time of uncertainty, struggling to keep a structure in our lives. It would be really interesting to see what everyone else is doing. And yeah, thank you for watching. Today I don't feel like doing anything. And the second reason I do this is it actually provides a more sustained
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side.